Welcome back, mere mortalites, to another edition of the Mere Mortals Book Reviews. I am once again in a different location. I've changed the studio, so if you're currently watching this, let me know what you think of this particular studio, but this is the Mere Mortals Book Reviews, and I get a chance to review, once again, a book that I enjoy, and maybe perhaps you might know what's coming up. It is another Anthony Horowitz book. It is Skeleton Key. Yes, it is Alex Rider, and I will be reviewing plenty more of these books. I have been enjoying them. I will give you a very, very quick rundown of what this particular book is. This is the third in the series, directly after Point Blank. I'll give you a little tiny morsel of what this book is about. You know, if you read the back, and again, this is a teenager's book, and you might be wondering, one, you're not a teenager. What is going on? What are you reading? This was a book of my youth. I loved it. Anthony Horowitz himself has continued to create these books. In fact, I believe it's up to like the 14th book. And I went, look, I want to try and get through all the rest of the books. And so I'm going to reread some of these. I'll review some of them in terms of obviously the story in part, but maybe some of the meaningful and interesting takeouts. And there is one big one from Skeleton Key, apart from the big old shark who's at the front. This particular book, it begins with him coming off Point Blank, you know, almost having been killed. Alex Rider here, again, a teenage spy, which is what the book is centered all around. The general structure of all of these books from Anthony Horowitz is short, sharp chapters. Well-researched is another probably big call-out as well from Anthony in terms of Alex Rider and the books that he creates. It begins with him going through Alex here, going to Wimbledon, being approached by MI6 to go support in Wimbledon, and unfortunately getting pulled back into the world of spies and being tracked. He goes and surfs this legendary cribber, this massive wave. Again, gets attacked by the Chinese triads, so then have to get him out of there. They send him off to an island where it seems like, you know, nothing's really happening. He's got to go help out the CIA from America. There's some interesting interactions there around what they think of children participating in the space of being a spy. These two individuals, again, there's going to be some spoilers here, unfortunately perish at the hands of either the shark or some jaws that are from a cave. I'll only say that much. Alex gets trapped, gets picked up by a particular gentleman who is the enemy of this particular book, which is the general, and his henchman, who's a little bit derailed. And again, typical Alex Rider, Anthony Horowitz, there's always the one big enemy. There's also the side henchman who's generally deformed or huge or strength, something in relation to that. Yes, so I guess that's I'll give you enough of what the book is about. Again, short, sharp chapters are just like bang, 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 big things happening, action. This ends at a submarine, nuclear submarine location where someone gets yanked into a magnetic disc that's floating across, who's choking Alex to death, but unfortunately he gets to get away. And again, at the tail end of the book, it's, you know, this huge, horrific thing has happened to Alex. Will he ever go on and perform again? Again, third book, and they're up to the 14th book, so that might give you some indication of where it continues. But that and all is Skeleton Key by Anthony Horowitz. A little bit thicker than the previous books as well. They start to become that, a little bit more. Again, the writing or the text is still quite large in comparison to what the previous ones are, or maybe other books that you've read. I'm also reading Lord of the Rings at the moment, and the text and the speed that you can read these particular books is much faster than those. It's also, again, comparison to other fiction books. It's a teenager's book. You know, it's meant to be a quick consumed, action-packed type of book, not a super developed idea or storyline. Although the Alex Rider series begins to do that over a whole variety of books, but we'll get there when we get there. So what did I want to talk about from this particular book? Well, there's an individual, and generally you talk about the heroes or the masses or the people who kind of come out to win or support. And in this particular book, as usual, you know, Alex Rider is the hero, the central key figure of the book. But for me, it was actually the general that called out to me as a awesome character in this particular one, in a lot of the positives of it. So first of all, yes, he is the enemy and the bad guy, if you will, from this particular book. But the characteristics that are described throughout this book, right from the beginning, which is where these two guys basically go and deliver a case of uranium to the island, which is Cayo Skeleto, or Skeleton Key Island, and go and deliver it, and they have to like pick up this heavy box and take it to the general. And in the explanation right at the beginning, the general's standing nice, tall and straight, wearing his full army gear from the past. He's able to pick it up, this box that was quite heavy for two individuals, easily himself, and take it to a truck. He wasn't sweating, even though it was super humid. And throughout the book, there was all these structures of, I think, when Alex gets not kidnapped, but basically picked up from he's diving around and almost gets crushed by the shark from this book. And he wakes up in the morning and goes to meet the general. The general's like, oh, I've just done a 6-mile, 10-mile run around the plantation. Now I'm eating this healthy way. And I remember reading this when I was young, again, 13, 14, 15 years old, and going, he seems cool. The general seems like a cool guy. Seems like a guy that I wanted to emulate. He's got this stoic sense of him, back straight, chest out, non-effortless view of things, where he almost moves like a ballerina and really smoothly, but then has this hidden strength. A couple of notes that I wrote right around it was like strength without noise. And there's a few characters in this book, at least in the series, that give that, the strength without noise, the being quiet. Yassine, the assassin, as well, is given that type of description where, they move really quietly and softly, but they strike in a deadly way. And I don't know what it was at the time, and even now, reading that, I still go, man, the general's got some good principles. Now, was his values and ethics and drive of what he was trying to do? Ultimately, he was trying to basically blow up the world, blame the Russians, by blowing up all the nuclear submarines. And yes, it'd kill lots of people, but then it would do a bit of a reset, and everyone needed to do that. Again, I'm not supportive of that, so I'm sorry, General, not viewing that. But everything else in terms of his running and his great eating, I went, you know what? That calls out to me, almost like emotional minimalism that he displayed. Okay, in some aspects bad, but in some areas quite good. I think I'm not going to say, let's say, I'll put it down to 3%. 3% of the reason that maybe I started to like the concept of Stoicism before I even knew what it was honestly knowing about the general when I was a teenager and going, man, that was a little bit of a changing factor, not huge, but a little deciding factor of, oh, that's kind of what I would like to uphold myself like and drive and be seen as this outstanding member of society without obviously all the drawbacks of being evil, etc. The other quote that I put around it was, because it was like Marcus Aurelius, but through the eyes of a villain. So it's the villain. So he was powerful, he was strategic, he was emotionally impenetrable. But it was, the call out was, when did composure become weakness, right? And today's society is more so what I was kind of thinking about. And as it stands way back then when I read it, and obviously so I go, the composure that was demonstrated in his discipline to do his runs and his eating and following through his plan, however bad it may be, there was composure and there was discipline that really attracted me even to this day. And I don't know where that's fallen off the wayside, why people think that to follow routine or to do those things which are maybe not just antisocial, but maybe not as applauded perhaps in society, and why that's seen as a weakness, I go, no, that's a strength. And so I really, really enjoyed that aspect of Skeleton Key and the particular villain that he wrote. So again, Anthony, mate, I keep calling it out. Thank you very much for putting together these sort of books. It definitely shaped one of today all the way back in my teenage years and maybe younger as well. So this is a sequel to Point Blank. There's a third book in the series, Skeleton Key. As usual, I give it, it's a great book. If you're a teenager, read it. If you read it when you were young, go reread it again. They're really fun. They're easy reads. Honestly, even though it's quite thick, you could get through it in a couple of hours. And on a 2 to 3 hour plane ride, I reckon you could smash out this particular book, especially if you've read it, because you know what's coming, and so then you even skip ahead to the really juicy bits. I'll leave it there. Mere Mortal Knights, thank you very much for joining. Again, if you've made it all the way to this particular point of the book review, if you haven't subscribed, go subscribe, make some comments, try out sending some boostergrams, send that if you'd like us to read any particular books as well. I've got more Anthony Horowitz books, but again, I'll try and align it to the interesting things and compare it to the world at large as it's happening now. There's a ton load of other books as well that I've got in the up and coming, all the Lord of the Rings series and a few other big fiction books. I've also bought a whole host of new books as well that's going to have to be in the backlog to get to. Let me see how fast I can get through them. For now, Mere Mortalites, I hope you have enjoyed the book review. I hope you're well wherever you are in the world. And for now, one out.